so much for tuning in to We Relate. This episode is called A Whole Marriage, and I'm very excited. I've been most excited about this episode. As a newlywed, I'm learning a lot right now about this subject, and I also have two of my very dear friends, Josh and Naci Littlejohn, are here with us today. And this is kind of a cool story. Naci and I got to know each other when we were both working in the kids ministry at our church. She was the director of the kids ministry, and I started as a volunteer and worked with her for about a year doing that. And then I started going to a small group in their home, and I just got to know this couple and their family, and I really, really love them. I really look up to them. And when my husband and I started dating, we started coming to this small group together. We ended up getting married in their backyard this summer. So this is the house where we had our wedding and everything. So I really look up to and admire this couple, and I definitely have been taking notes. So I'm excited to ask some more specific questions today. And we just wanted to start out with hearing a little bit of your story, what it was like to me, like what it was like. I don't know. We'll have some more specific questions later, but if you want to kind of introduce yourselves and your story a little bit.
Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, I'm Naci Littlejohn, and this is my husband, Josh. And we met
How old were you?
when I was 18. I was in my first semester of college in New Mexico. And we met at a party. He was 23. He had just done 4 years of school at A&M and came back to work for family. And we met at a party. We were both in complete darkness, using drugs, addicted to drugs. We didn't think it could get worse, but it did when we met. I don't know. What do you want to share about this, about when we met?
I was 23, had just completed 4 years of school, but didn't have a degree, dropped out. I was like, I'm done. I needed to do anything else, and my life was a wreck. And just one party to the next one, just kind of living that lifestyle. And we met at a party. We became friends in that lifestyle, like hanging out all the time, up to no good. But we truly kind of became friends in a really dark way, I guess.
I'm glad you brought that up, because yes, even though we weren't walking with the Lord and what He intended for our life, our relationship was built on friendship, and so that was huge. It was huge for what was to come after that.
Yeah. And so we through an awesome radical encounter she had a radical encounter and got set free from that. And also at the same time, I had a more physical encounter, meaning I went to a drug treatment center. So she got supernaturally delivered, and I got supernaturally and naturally delivered. And I was 26. Yeah. I
was 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I got to touch on this because I think it's super cool of the Lord and important to share. When I had a supernatural encounter, I didn't have language for any of this stuff. And so I had a vision. I didn't know it was a vision. I just saw this path in front of me, and one was light and one was dark. One was life and one was death. And I didn't know that I didn't even know it was God speaking to me at the time, because I didn't have language for it. But in the moment, the addiction was taken from me. I was delivered from my addiction. And so I just had to share that, because, sometimes we think people, like, God's speaking to us even though we don't know it's Him. All the time. Yeah. And so I just wanted to share that part, because it's like, even when we were in darkness, I had a thought pop in my head that I didn't know was God at the time, but it said, "This is who you're going to marry." Wow. And I was like, what? No, but it was, I could look back knowing that it was God. Like, looking back, I'm like once I learned the voice of God, I could go back and be like, oh, that was Him speaking to me there. That was Him speaking to me there. And one of the times was He told me this was who I was going to marry. And so what was huge in us just walking out of that lifestyle was everything was on the same trajectory with both of us. Like, when I had that encounter with the Lord, it was like my eyes were opened, because I knew He was going to rehab too. And I was like, what kind of wife would I be? I was already thinking that, what kind of wife would I be to Him if I kept walking in this lifestyle? It would never work.
So we were 26 and 21. we went through that, and then we got I came out of treatment and finished school. Like, we actually graduated together. We walked the stage together because I was older. Even though I was older, I had taken a break off, and yeah. So we actually graduated together, and we got married on Thanksgiving and graduated in December, and then took our honeymoon. We went to San Diego for a few days, and then we later that year we were pregnant with Jude, and because we'd been friends for 5 years, and so we were ready to have children. So yeah, I think, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was a little bit of a surprise, but we were excited too, you know?
So yeah, you guys, once you got married, you were already kind of walking out this wholeness. You'd already gone through treatment and been set free from addiction. But that was still a process after you were married, right? Of kind of walking out that freedom and coming to this place that you are now. Was there like a honeymoon stage when you got married? Did that end? What is that like?
I would say that we walked out of addiction into religion. And so, we didn't know it, but that's what you don't know it until you're like, until after. So we walked out of addiction into religion. We were, hindsight, yes. And so we were going, we knew Jesus. I still didn't know his voice. And so you can't really have like a relationship if it's just a one-way conversation, you know? So we knew Jesus. We went to church. We were at church on Sundays. It was like what you do, but that was just like the start of our marriage. We had so much to walk through.
Yeah. So I would say our whole life centered around church and church activities at that time, which we probably needed that, you know, like we needed like some structure, and it was a good church, but we didn't know until we moved to a different state, didn't have the kind of the same kind of church and all the programs, and we moved in a really rural area, and we discovered that's like our lives, our health and our spiritual health and our relationship with God was, for me anyway, was only as good as I was involved at church. Like, it wasn't outside of that. You didn't know that till like you remove yourself, but so then it became a really slow disconnection where we used to be kind of on fire for at church. Realized I didn't really have a fire for the Lord. It's a difference. And then over time we became like, I hated going. We were back row, like late to church, first ones to leave. I don't really want to meet anyone, but it doesn't happen overnight, but it just like over time, and we kind of became like roommates in a sense. Like we lost like an intimacy, or maybe we didn't even ever have an intimacy, but we were so excited to be set free from the dark, and we were so involved in church, but like I don't know if we ever really had an intimate relationship until later, till we met the Holy Spirit.
And so shortly, like a year or two after we got married, we moved states. We moved to Kansas, and we were trying out other churches. By this time, we brought Exie into the world. Exie's yes, our second oldest into our family, and still trying out other churches. And then all our kids are just about 3 years apart. So then, we're still just doing life. And then Matt comes along, and by this point, I had served in several, I had volunteered in several kids ministries. And so I was like realizing, I was having this revelation that it wasn't the church's job to teach my kids, it was mine. And so it set me on this journey of like, oh, what do I want to teach my kids? And through that, my ears were opened. And I heard the voice of God, and that's when everything just kind of started shifting, and it became like real. I met Holy Spirit, and so I would say that's kind of what changed the course of our marriage is when we met Holy Spirit, and then we started getting language for like the way God speaks to us and certain things that had happened in our past, and we were able to get inner healing and deal with a lot of the baggage that we had brought into our marriage. And I realized all the things that drove me crazy about him wasn't even him. It was my own issues that I had. Right.
Yeah. I mean, cause we had 5 years of darkness that we kind of didn't really ever process. Like, we got set free from all of it, and it was always like, we're married and we're set free and we're at church, and let's just, like, we don't need to even go there. You know what I mean? And there was just things that we had done, things like just things that mark you in a not good way. You know what I mean? That almost things like we didn't even want to talk about, you know, but like when you meet the Holy Spirit, like he does not abide you holding on to those things. He's jealous to get those things out.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you were just set free from drugs like that. And then you had to go through like this process. So what was it like when like you guys are both like, now you're free in a whole different way? Like, what was that like proceeding in your marriage where like you had this encounter with the Lord and you can look back and go, this marked me? And you had to go through rehab where you're saying, okay, God was there, but was he there? Like, you went through this process. So what was it like going on? Were there ever like temptations where like you could look back and go, no, I know the Lord set me free? And then were you ever just like, well, I went through rehab, so I don't know if the Lord like actually did anything in that? What was that like for you guys?
I'll answer for me, but I'll let you share. That's a great question. I think probably just so I can clarify, I felt like I had an encounter with the Lord the first day I got to treatment, like a wave of hope. Like I describe it like the Holy Spirit just like washed over me, and I hope like I was in a safe place. But I also needed to be out of my environment and all my friends and all my contacts. I needed to be away. And so it was like that. And then I also needed all the just different tools and the ways I was thinking wrong that they teach you in there too. But I do believe like the very first day I walked in, it was an encounter. And it was like, so I never had since that day, I never had a temptation for that. But I also needed to be there to learn tools on how to like process anger or disappointment or like needing to be liked, you know, people pleasing, all these things that were like, I didn't even know were really just kind of driving my life. And so, but yeah, it was that day, but I needed to actually be away. I was going to go for 90 days and I actually chose to stay for a year. And so I was like, I'm not ready. I need to learn. I need to grow, and I need to just be a whole person, like a healthy whole person. But it's a great question. I'll let you talk about that.
Yes. So, when I had an encounter with the Lord that day, I was completely delivered. I never had a desire to do it again. I had knowledge that I knew I couldn't keep hanging out with the same people, because you don't hang out with people if you're not using. And like, you know, like everyone that we were always with was always using. It wasn't like there was like a couple that were around that weren't. And so I knew I had to change my friends. And I took the time with him being gone, like to read the Bible, to go to a program called Celebrate Recovery, and really just to reconnect with my family, because I had lost some years with them. I have a big family and we're close. And so I took time to just really restore relationships and yeah.
Great question.
Okay, well, I think our time is actually almost up for this episode. So thank you guys so much for everything that you shared. It's seriously so valuable. And I think there's some great nuggets of gold in there about how to have a whole marriage. And is there anything you want to say in closing? We're just about to do another episode with Josh and Naci on family and doing family God's way. So is there anything else before we close out the marriage episode that you'd like to add?
I want to reiterate what Naci said earlier about we really view marriage, and we even when we counsel couples, we can see what's lacking in marriage is friendship. And so like I think it's like one of the best ways I like to describe a healthy and whole marriage is friendship. Like, it's not about marriage. It's like, are you friends? You know what I mean? It's a deep, deep, deep friendship. It's a true friendship. And so when we see couples, like a big red flag, it's not like we're always sizing up couples, but it's like you can tell which ones are friends, because like friends runs deeper than a lot of friendship runs deep. And so you're just like, I love to see when couples are friends. They don't want to go, the guy doesn't want to always just go do a bunch of guy things, and the woman doesn't want to do a bunch of woman things. Like, they want to be together, and like, I don't want to just come to a men's group. I want my wife with me. You know, like, I don't want to go to a women's retreat. Why is this not a co-ed thing? You know, like, those aren't bad things, but these are just things like we see that that we're just very grateful for.
Yes, and I just want to add, friends want to be together. They want to spend time together, like he said. And, you know, you treat your friends with love and with care. I feel like you treat your friends better than you treat other people, in a sense. Does that make sense? You know? And so it helps us with with conflict, with anything, is just our friendship is the foundation, and with Holy Spirit. But yeah, being friends changed everything when we remembered that we were friends, like walking through everything. Like when we met Holy Spirit, it was just like that friendship reconnected, and we realized that we did like to spend time together. We did want to be together, you know, and it just gets better every day.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you.